When the summer solstice starts and we're sitting on a beach or fishing at the lake or just taking a break, the countdown clocks have started, fight songs pass the time. The days may run together, but you know that in our mind it's always Saturday. Take me back to Saturday. Saturday. Give me those 12 Saturdays. Spot the ball. March Madness is a blast, and we love baseball games. But nothing beats the feeling of having a killer slate of games. It's always Saturday. Take me back to Saturday. Saturday. Dreaming of all Saturdays. Spot the ball. Spot the ball. Oh, college football. Sat out your day.
All right.
It's for the large and for the small. Lay a big hit and pass a kick the ball. This game is for us all. From Seattle down toward the Keys, this game is you, this game is me. Cats, dogs, and steer, be the tree. This game is America, so sing it loud with me. College football forever. College football forever. Downtown LA, Starkville City. 1 week you're up next, take a dip, run the rock, or let it rip. This game is America, all say, can you sing it with me?
We just stepped on her feet with a hot-tail moving across her nose. Whoa, Nelly!
College football forever. College football forever. College football forever. College football forever.
College football is a year-round discussion with these two. Here's JC and Morgan. Mike Morgan of ESPN and JC Sherbert of 24/7 Sports have you covered, beginning right now.
And we say good morning and welcome, everybody. It's another terrific Tuesday installment of JC and Morgan, JC Sherbert, 24/7 Sports. He's got a lot on his plate right now. You might have seen one of the games of the week that took place in College Station. For those that are new to this show, for those that are not in the South Carolina community, he has a website for 24/7 and talks exclusively about that team on that particular program. We talk about that team and the other 135 on this program, and we welcome you in, whether you're watching live on YouTube, Twitter, whether you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart. Found out we're on iHeart. We didn't even know that. I didn't at the beginning of the year. Google Play, what have you. We're everywhere, pretty much. We're everywhere you need to be.
Audible. They're on Audible.
Audible. I mean, every day I find out we're somewhere else. And we're closing in on 300 career episodes. This is the 10th year. We used to do this just during football season. Now we do it year-round. You know, in the offseason, we finally had to just cut off the discussions of NIL, the portal, and money and salaries and everything else. and we're going to keep doing that. But one thing we can't get away from is money and coaches. JC, I'm in Knoxville now. I'll be in Auburn in a matter of, I don't know, 10 hours to do another basketball game. And where I was this past weekend was Oxford, Mississippi. And it was a great game to call on Elite Media Network. Chuck Oliver, myself, Ole Miss, Florida. Ole Miss just was too much. I don't say this lightly. Like Lane Kiffin, in terms of offense and calling plays, is so far ahead of just about everybody. I put Sark in that category. Maybe there's a couple other guys. I mean, Eli doesn't call plays anymore at Missouri. A lot of people don't know that, but he gave up those duties a couple of years ago. But Lane he's one of one. And anyway, long story short, with a Division II quarterback from Ferris State, Trinidad Chambliss, they light you up one way or another. And then when you think, oh, it's just a pass-happy offense. No, much like Spurrier, his idol, it's very balanced. And Kejuan Lacey rushes for over 200 and 3 touchdowns against a Florida team that, to their credit, they didn't check out. They actually competed, made it a game before they gave way to the better team. But I go through the Grove, JC, and the Grove is just outstanding. Like what Ole Miss lacks, and Lane himself has been critical of this, they have 64,000 fans. They don't have 100 like Texas A&M or Tennessee. They don't have 90 like the Swamp. They don't have 80. What's Williams-Brice now? 80-something?
77 now.
All right.
It's
standing
been
room
up to
only.
80.
We can.
Oh yeah, that's 80.
Let's call it 80. So at Athens, Georgia, I think it's around 90. They don't have that, and it's not the loudest crowd. But everybody now has these pyrotechnics, especially the SEC venues, but even the other places I've been in the Big Ten and the ACC, they all do this now. The light shows, the fireworks, it's incredible. Well, everybody has their own little gimmick between the third and fourth quarter. So you can make 60-something thousand feel like 90,000, right? And all that. But Ole Miss has never been known as the most intimidating venue. It's about the party before, and the Grove's incredible. And I had enough time, and I'm walking around, I'm checking out 10 after 10 after 10, and all people are talking about is Lane Kiffin. It's amazing. Ole Miss is about to go to a playoff, in all likelihood. If they win the Egg Bowl, they're in the playoff. It's a done deal. Alabama LSU played a football game last week. It's like it didn't even happen because everybody's talking about LSU and who their coach is going to be. This past week, we had, or this coming week, Florida's going to play Tennessee. It's like the game is just all Florida fans are talking about is Lane Kiffin. And everybody wants to know what plane Lane Kiffin was on, what plane the mother of his children was on, what plane his children was on. It's going back and forth. You got people, and we all know these people. JC, you deal with this more than anybody. Again, owning a fan site. Oh, I know. You get these messages all the time. I know you do. JC, trust me, I know. It's a done deal. Oh, no. You can go ahead. You can report it, my man. No, I'm telling you, you won't be wrong. You can report it. I saw him with the AD having coffee at the bagel shop in the square, blah, 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 blah. That's going on with Lane Kiffin. I go out that night after the game, local watering hole, and this guy who's the owner of the bar, but he's well connected. He knows players, he knows coaches. And he's like, it's a done deal, man. $12.5 million. I've seen the contract. It's done deal. And I asked a stupid question. Well, if it's a done deal, how come he hasn't signed it and announced it? Well, it's just a formality at this point. No, not the way it works, bro. Nobody knows. Nobody freaking knows. But to go back to the money aspect, we can't get away from it because Lane's about to be the highest paid coach in the history of the sport, no matter what he does. If he stays at Ole Miss, they're going to have to pay him. If he goes to Florida, they're going to have to pay him. And Jimmy Sexton is just sitting there licking his chops. The highest paid coach right now is Kirby Smart at 13.2. Sark's at 10.8, and DeBoer is at 10.2. JC, I wouldn't be surprised if we're looking at the first ever $15 million coach in college football. So it's going to be insane. It's going to be madness. But as we sit here with only 2 more weeks of the regular season, which makes me sad, it breaks my heart. A tear is pouring from my eye right now. You can't see it. Um, how how is it we just can't we'll focus on the college football playoff rankings tonight with the show, but man, it's all these other and all these coaches that are on the hot seat. Again, you're covering one. All this stuff that's going on, man, that has nothing to do with the games. That is as big a storyline as there is in mid-November in college football.
Yeah, I don't know that I like it too much. I get it. It's fascinating. It's a little more interesting sometimes than what's going on the field. We haven't had very many like massive upsets this year. A lot of competitive games. I mean, if you want to sit around and watch back and forth football games, this is the year for you. But we don't have any kind of like, oh my God, kind of moments, which is interesting because the talent levels across the sport have gotten closer. But a lot of chalk. A lot of chalk this year, like in the SEC, for example, Arkansas. Dude, Arkansas has had Auburn on the ropes. They've had Mississippi State on the ropes. They've had LSU on the ropes. They were 3 points away from beating A&M since Petrino took over. Haven't won a single one of them. And we see that, think of how many close games Georgia played. Georgia's getting better, by the way. And we're going to talk about that in the JC5. So it hadn't been the most thrilling, crazy season on the field. And that's not how it's going to be. Like last year, we talked about how it's going to be in the future, and it's not. We talked about how having a bunch of players that you recruited out of high school back, that's the key because Ohio State did that. Well, look at Clemson. They had more than anybody, and they're 5-5, although they've done a good job rallying the troops up there. So, you kind of look at it and we'll see how it long-term plays out, but the Kiffin thing is fascinating, not just because, it's a passionate internet fan base in Florida and then another one in LSU, a large one, it's just unprecedented because you have a guy that is 10-1 at Ole Miss and going to the playoff. They breakthrough year, right, for that program. And there's jets flying around with his family in it, going to Baton Rouge, Gainesville, wherever. I mean, that's batty. There are reports out there that Ole Miss may not let him coach in the playoff.
If that happens, that will be so modern day college football.
Yes.
If he takes the job with another SEC school, this ain't Tommy Tuberville going from Ole Miss to Auburn back in the 90s. This is a coach that now has 4 10-win seasons at Ole Miss. You got to go back to Johnny Vaught to have anything even close to that level of success in Oxford. A playoff appearance for the first time ever. Having the best season since the 60s. I can't relate to 1960s Ole Miss football. I know the storyline. Obviously, it's a different day and time. And yet, if you're Keith Carter, the AD, I remember Keith as a basketball player, White Sox up to the knees, great player. I don't think he gets an ounce of sleep. Whenever I have a bad night of sleep, which this time of year I often do, I think Keith Carter got less sleep than I did. I feel better because he is trying to play defense against multiple schools trying to poach his coach. And then he has to make a decision. And this is where I would ask you, JC, if you were Joe E. fan. Okay, you're going to be butthurt if Lane leaves your school in the middle of a historic season. But are you going to be butthurt enough to say, I don't even want you coaching our playoff? Yeah. Or are you going to say, you know what? This is just the reality of the situation. It's the nature of the beast. It is a business. But let's go ahead and make history here for a few more games with Lane Kiffin, and then we'll figure out what 2026 looks like. Personally, we can all be petty about things, but I would still want him coaching my team. But I understand you're going to feel spurned if he leaves you at the altar for another job. And again, the only thing I would say to that, and I don't think Ole Miss fans will take comfort in this, but if it does happen, it's not about money. Ole Miss can pay whatever Florida pays. It's rarely at this point, if it's SEC and Big Ten, it's rarely about money. It's just, and it's not even about prestige. For those that say, well, Florida, look at the last 4 coaches that they all got fired. Yeah, but two of the previous 3 won 3 national titles and a boatload of SEC championships. And Lane Kiffin doesn't look at it like, geez, Will Muschamp couldn't do it, so therefore I couldn't. No, Wayne Kiffin says, yeah, but I'm a hell of a lot better than Will Muschamp. I'm a hell of a lot better than McElwain. I'm a hell of a lot better than Sunbelt Billy Napier. That's the way Lane looks at it. And I don't think it even comes down to that as much as would you rather live? And we all have different reasons why we want to live in certain places. JC, you're in Chicago because you love your wife, right? I mean,
yeah.
I'm in Atlanta because I took a job with the Braves 15 years ago, and I like the city, but it's also geographically convenient for me traveling all the time to SEC cities and about, and I have a Delta hub right there. For Lane, it could be he's got a house in Boca, or he could see his son playing for IMG Academy. Who knows? He likes being 2 hours from the beach. He doesn't dislike Oxford. He loves Oxford, but maybe he likes Gainesville. Who the hell knows? Everybody is different, but it's going to be fascinating. And if you're Keith Carter and somehow he does take another job, wow. And in the meantime, Ole Miss is saying, hey, blank or get off the pot. And you know what Jimmy Sexton's saying? We'll let you know. You don't have leverage to tell Lane to make this decision right now. What are you gonna do? Are you literally going to fire him before the Egg Bowl? Are you gonna say, get out of here? You didn't sign a contract.
Well,
What would J.C. Sherbert AD?
Nick Saban did it in the middle of the playoff run.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember?
Yeah.
And he did leave Tennessee in the middle of the night.
You're talking about Lane.
Yeah. I mean, it's not unprecedented with this guy. And, I think it's going to be a pretty negative look because all those negative looks, he had, there's not a coach in college football that's rebuilt his image as well as Lane Kiffin. But you take off and, you're just leaving your team before a playoff break because you don't have any loyalty to the school that you have been very clear and on the record how happy you are and how you found yourself there. And well, thanks for the memories, Oxford. Enjoy the library,
But what if you were the AD? Would you say, hey, Lane, if you're going to take the Florida job, we'd rather you leave now and not coach us in the playoffs? We're going to have our interim coach.
Well, here's the message, I think, is there's 2 ways to look at it. I think number one, you could say, because it's Lane Kiffin. So you're not like, okay. So, all right, let me figure out another coach. Who's another coach? Clark Lee leaves Vanderbilt before the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else is the interim, probably the kill zone. Okay, well, Clark doesn't call the defense anymore. He did last year. He goes back and forth with that, and the offensive coordinator is still there, and so is Pavia. All right, so head coach is missing. Maybe it causes some, there's some things that are missing there, but that's okay. But Lane Kiffin, with how he is, as you mentioned at the top of the show, as a play caller, offensive innovator, a guy that knows what to call and when. You do have Charlie Weiss Jr. there that's been with him, that kind of is up in the booth, helping him. But Lane Kiffin with that play sheet is an advantage for Ole Miss. And so strategically, if it were somebody else, if it were Ed Orgeron back in the day, and I'm going to go, I'll take the Raiders job. Okay. Well, is Joe Burrow staying? Is Joe Brady staying? Steve Ensminger staying? How about Dave Aranda? Are they all staying? Oh, yeah, they're not going anywhere. All right. See ya.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly, somebody like that. Even Kirby Smart, and I say this with a great respect for him as a defensive mind, though, but he's got Glenn Schumann there, and Glenn's really good, and Muschamp was really good. Yeah, all that good stuff. So, but with Kiffin specifically, like, you decrease your chances of making noise in the playoff, right? If he's not on the sidelines. It's just how it is. That's why probably why Florida wants him so much. He's kind of like the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier. Just about with a couple of exceptions, Kerwin Bell and Cade Bell are two of the exceptions out there. G.A. Mangus is the other. Somebody else tried to call Spurrier's offense. It was a disaster, right? And Kiffin's got that kind of, you need him. You need him you need him in game. That's the strength of Lane Kiffin. On the other side of it, because that's the all-in approach. Like, okay, I don't care what you do. Let's just go all in and try to win as many games as we can. It'll be fun. But the other side of it you have to think about as an AD is what about his time and his prep? You take the Florida job, Florida's going to have expectations. Well, what about our recruiting class? What about this? What about that? The good news is if they're in the first round and they host a playoff game, that doesn't really interfere because they changed the recruiting calendar this year. So the portal is in January. So you don't have to worry about it until then. Now, if they're one of the top 4 seeds, they don't play until New Year's. And then if they win, they play again. So how critical are those few weeks at Florida? Well, they're going to be critical. The rule also states this, and this is good for new coaches. Once the new coach is hired, you have to give the new coach 5 days, regardless if they're in the portal or not, to talk you into staying. So what's that going to look like in Gainesville? And during a time where Ole Miss could potentially be preparing for a semifinal national playoff thing. And so the other part of that is Keith Carter, who's a lifelong Ole Miss Rebel, says, screw you. Nobody's bigger than the program. Now, what that's going to cause if they go out and lose their butts. And sometimes an interim coach can get them going, right? And they're fine. But I don't know. Like I said, strategic advantage with Kiffin. Then the fans over there, while they'll applaud it to begin with, are always going to remember 2025. Boy, we could have had it.
Yeah.
But Lane Kiffin and then Keith Carter, maybe he should have just held on to him. So it's it's quite a pickle, Michael, for them to be in. I'm fine either way. But I think, as with anything, either decision you make if you're Ole Miss is it's really the devil's in the details. Like, okay, so we're gonna let you coach it out here, but man, you better do that. But you do have a guy that Nick Saban said, all right, you're not focused enough on this job, go on to your next job. So I don't know. It is a tough call. Either way would be fine, but I think both has some risk to it. And who it's unfortunate for is the players at Ole Miss who have worked hard and who have a 10-1 record and all that, because it's just like that. Now, all that said, Kiffin could just stay at Ole Miss and sign the contract and everything's hunky dory and away we go.
Nothing's a done deal.
Hey, knowing him, you're going into the Egg Bowl next week. It's a dangerous game for them. I mean, it's a dangerous game. I mean, it's at Mississippi State. Mississippi State's trying to get to a bowl. It wouldn't be surprised if all this was like intentional. Like, all right, we're gonna make it seem like I'm leaving, and then it's like the Wolf of Wall Street, and then that gets this crescendo, and everybody's fired up for the Egg Bowl because Lane's staying, baby.
Yeah.
I don't put anything past anybody these days. I don't know that
I'm not even sure Lane has made up his own mind. I really don't. I mean, he's 50 years old, which is pretty damn young in coaching circles, and he's a young 50. I mean, we all know people that are in their 30s that look like a hot mess and that life has just beat them down. He is living his best life. He cannot lose. So he'll figure it out when he's ready to figure it out, but he really doesn't have to figure it out now if he doesn't want to. But again, I mean, if he was 100% going to Ole Miss, in deference to the bar owner that I ran into in Oxford, the contract would be signed, the announcement would be made, and you'd put this to bed. Clearly, Ole Miss fans and someone as smart as Keith Carter knows none of that has happened, and therefore there's angst. If ever there was a chance to have angst in the air for a 10-win team destined to be in the playoff, It's in Oxford, and it's so 2025 college football. It is just like you got Brian Kelly. They're trying to fire him for cause so they don't have to pay a $52 million buyout. It's cats and dogs living together. It's mass hysteria. Before we dive into the JC5, again, we are powered by Advocare, advocare.com. Got my Spark. Never leave home without it. That is my coffee. That is everything I need to get going. No sugar. You got Rehydrate, which is better than Gatorade or any of these other things. Some of these energy drinks, by the way, I mean, they might as well be leaking battery acid into your loins. I mean, they're not good for you. You can go on YouTube and you can check out the videos. It's rather troubling. None of that with Advocare products. All safe, all effective. I've been taking them for 13 years. Recommend you do as well. And if you do, and you use promo code Mike Morgan, you will save 20%. Well, before we dive into the JC5, just real quick, the playoff rankings are coming out today. Here's what we're looking at. Right now, you've got, first off, a battle for, there are 4 teams that are still eligible for the SEC championship game. I know that's not the top subject. It's all about who makes the playoff and who doesn't. But you still do have 4 teams in it. And then you've got a number of teams in the mix for a playoff. One of our listeners in the chat box mentioned SEC gets 5. There's a damn good chance that happens. The SEC gets 5, the Big Ten gets 3, and then everybody else gets 1, including Notre Dame. That's a distinct possibility. But 2 things happened, JC. I wanted to start off the show with how wrong I was. Damn it. I hate when I forget to do that. I thought Alabama was going to avenge last year's loss and beat Oklahoma at home. I was wrong. I thought Texas had a really good chance to not just cover the spread, but to beat Georgia. I was wrong. Kirby culture, man, it is unmatched right now in Athens. They just get it done, and Gunnar Stockton has got everything you want intangible-wise at quarterback. So Georgia's probably getting in to everything, right? I mean, they're in great shape. But let me pose one thing to you.
Mm-hmm.
If Alabama loses to Auburn in the Iron Bowl, that's a 3-loss Alabama team. If Texas, in a game we'll be doing on Elite Media, beats Texas A&M Black Friday in Austin, they're a 3-loss team. I would submit to you, Texas would have beaten 2 top 8 teams without a bad loss. And then there's Alabama, and I don't know if they had the same resume. Texas could get in as a 3-loss over Alabama as a 3-loss. Everybody's talking about Alabama much more than they are Texas, but something to consider in the hierarchy of the SEC in the playoff. And then, the Big Ten, obviously it looks like Ohio State and Indiana on a crash course. And then you've got Oregon sitting there. Southern Cal still has the outside track. Michigan still has the outside track. Big 12, Texas Tech, they look like the class of that league. I can't see BYU upsetting them in a rematch in Big D. And then the ACC is just drunk. With the exception of Boston College, Cal, Clemson, FSU, Louisville, North Carolina, NC State, Stanford, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest. These are not good football teams. But all these other teams are in. Miami, Georgia Tech, Virginia, Duke, Pitt, SMU, all have a chance of winning the ACC and still have a chance, although not a guarantee, of getting in the playoffs. So it's a little squirrely.
It is. Georgia Tech's winning their end. But if they don't, there's a lot of other scenarios. Big win by Virginia at Duke last week too, to kind of. But yeah, there could be a lot of different teams that go from there. And gosh, there was a scenario out there where they got 2 teams in because Miami would be ranked if they won out high at 10-2, and they would get in as an at-large, and then the champion would get in if they were higher. I don't know about that though. I just don't. So I don't. That's that league. Like I said, going back to 1990, Virginia, Georgia Tech were the class of that league. They played an epic game on CBS in Charlottesville, and that's everybody's talking about Virginia. Virginia was ranked number 1 in the country that year. Sean Moore, Herman Moore, those guys. I think Terry
George
Kirby,
Welsh
George
versus
Welch,
Bobby Ross.
Bobby Ross.
Wow.
And it was early November, late October, and they went up there. Tech kicked a long field goal at the end. I think Scott Sisson was his name. 41-38. And then that's when people started talking about Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech ended up sharing the national championship that year. So takes me back a bit to those days.
You've always been a closet Jefferson Pilot ACC Game of the Week guy.
Absolutely. And then the SEC later. But, the Raycom basketball is what I grew up on. I mean, because ACC had 8 teams. They were all shoved in there together. In the upstate of South Carolina, that was good watching.
Oh, yeah.
This game was, I remember this game specifically. CBS was in town for the first time, I think, ever for Virginia. And
that might have been Nance on the call.
Maybe so.
Back in the
but it was a heck of a game. And that looks like where we're heading. So.
All right, let's go rapid fire. I need some JC5 in my life.
It's time for the top topics in the sport. We bring the JC5. Number 1.
All right, so little birdie told me last weekend, and then it got out. Okay, so James Madison's ranked the highest group of 5 right now, Mike. The Dukes, they're coached by one Bob Chesney. Let me tell you, Bob Chesney he's a winner. Coached at a place called Salve Regina. I don't know where that is. Went 23-9. Went to Assumption. Shout out to my friend Mike Yuva, who went to Assumption and played there. 44-16 there. Holy Cross, 44-21 there. And then 18-5 at James Madison. He's 129-51. UCLA. He has the inside track to that job. Interesting, right?
Give me the last part of that equation there.
UCLA is set to most likely he is the leader in the clubhouse for the UCLA job. Bob Chesney from James Madison.
That's your intel on that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I knew it, and then reports started coming out that was the guy. I mean, I think the Athletic had it. And some.
Sorry, you were breaking up a little. You were breaking up a little bit there. I had problem.
Oh my God.
No, you're good. I think you're good now. It just
internet provider is unbelievable.
Yes. Well, somebody probably shot it up over there in Chi-Town. Love the city, parts of it, but yeah, I mean, look, the last JMU coach that got a P4 job is doing pretty well over there in Indiana, right? I can't tell you a whole lot about Chesney. I'd be lying if I said I've done a deep dive on him. You obviously have. And if you're UCLA, I just don't know what UCLA stands for anymore. For years and years, they were notoriously cheap. And I don't know if that's changed. Did I miss this? Was this just internet gossip, or are they not going to play their home games at SoFi?
No, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if it's changed back to going back to the Rose Bowl, but the Rose Bowl people who I think are bad for college football anyway. They were just raising all kinds of hell about it, but it was the SoFi thing was happening, and then I mean, unless there's been some news in the last 24 hours. I mean,
somebody sent my producer on the national radio games. He's a big UCLA guy. He sent me something. I don't know if it's official or not, but that's a big deal if they do go away from the Rose Bowl. I don't know. I don't know what the job UCLA is anymore. I just know that it's really hard, and they have not caught up with the times. So good luck to Coach Chesney if he gets it. But unless they radically change the way they do things over there, UCLA is going to be a continual doormat. They just are. I mean, everybody knows the Foster hire was comical, but even still, there's been successful hires that have not been successful at UCLA. That tells me that there's something internally that needs to be rectified, and I have no idea if they've done it yet.
Yeah, and being in the Big Ten doesn't help. I don't know. Bob Chesney's an out-of-the-box hire for them because he's out of the region, but it's either going to be highly successful and he's going to leave there to come back to a bigger job back east at some point, or it's going to be like when Sonny Dykes went to Cal. Fish out of water.
Fish out of water.
Number 2.
Let me ask you, is there a Big Ten program that you kind of look at and go, my God, what happened? That's worse shape than Michigan State right now. Okay, so they did your favorite. NCAA did your favorite thing and made them vacate wins. I'm like, dude, stop doing that. That's just like whatever. But you had the Mel Tucker thing that went south after they gave him $1 gazillion. They go and hire Jonathan Smith away from Oregon State, who I always thought that was a crap move because that was his alma mater. He was winning there, and he basically just abandoned them at their time of need, the Beavers, and now they're a mess. But he hadn't won and really hadn't looked good doing it. And they got tattooed again this past weekend, and they're wanting to fire him, and that's going to be another $30 million at Michigan State.
Wow, that's his buyout?
It's a mess, dude.
Yeah.
What happened to the Spartans? I know that sometimes with the guy that follows the guy, and the guy was Mark D'Antonio, who did a great job there, doesn't do well. But this is the next guy down. And if you look back through the history of that program, it was George Perlis, and I believe Nick Saban took over for George Perlis. And then I believe you had Bobby Williams had 3 years there. He was the interim and then got it for a little bit, kept the staff together. And then he left. And then I believe Mark D'Antonio was next. So they've been kind of a model of consistency, not always great, but not like terrible. They care about football at Michigan State. You were up there, Sparty. Right?
I was there for the Michigan game.
And, yeah.
So and I got to tell you,
it's gotten worse since you left.
Yeah. I hope they don't blame me for that. No, they've got a lot of good things going for them. They got Big Ten money. Let's start there. They've got recent winning tradition with D'Antonio. Let's go there. Facilities are much better. That was the first time in 15 years I'd been to Lansing. And the stadium, they got a major facelift. Fan base is engaged. This is not like, I don't know, Wake Forest, all due respect to the Demon Deacons. But they clearly have taken a step back. The Jonathan Smith hire, I can tell you this. I mean, Oregon State was awfully sad to see him go because he had that program going in the right direction. I would have made the hire too, but it hasn't worked. And it's one of those you have to ask yourself, like, Nebraska's having a bounce back year. And I do believe Matt Rule will bring them back to relevance, not national championship relevance, but like a chance to maybe sneak into a playoff, competitive in the Big Ten. But everybody's biggest fear, like a Michigan State, is what if we turn into what Nebraska did, a once very credible program. And there's a lot of, you go old school tradition, Bubba Smith, you got like Michigan State, you're talking about, they won championships, right? Like they were a thing. But so was Nebraska not long ago. And Nebraska has been toiling in irrelevance for the better part of 30 years. And if you miss on another hire at Michigan State, then people start saying it's not the hires, it's the job. And that's every fan base's worst fear. When you figure out it ain't the hires, it ain't the AD, it's your job. Nobody is winning there on a consistent basis. And with the Big Ten now being what it is, it's a lot harder to be the version that D'Antonio was in East Lansing. I don't know if I see that happening anytime soon.
Number 3.
All right, so you're the Michigan State AD. I believe his name is Kraft. Would you hire, if you had it's binary choice, right? And I don't know who he's going to hire. Would you hire Brian Hartline from Ohio State or Pat Fitzgerald?
For that job, I'd go Fitzgerald. Look, I was a big Fitzgerald guy when he was at Northwestern. I thought he might be the next Notre Dame coach. And I don't know what happened, but I mean, I know what he was accused of, but he wound up winning his lawsuit. Like Pat won a lot of money based on that.
It was complete BS. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when somebody wants to railroad you, man, they can do it, but good for Pat Fitzgerald. At least he got paid out of the deal. I'd hire Pat. I think Pat is a guy that just exudes energy. He's almost like I would put him in the Clark Lee slash. Who am I thinking here? Oh, I know. I'd put him in the Brent Key category. To me, he's like a Brent Key. He's a former player that's just he's got something that gets the most out of players. Is he the best X's and O's guy? No. But neither is Brent Key. Neither is Clark Lee. But you surround yourself with the right guys, and I think he could do a good job. I'm not. This is not a diss on Hartline, by the way. I like him too for a different reason. But yeah, I'd go Fitzgerald. I'd give him another shot. Number 4. We're going quick here, Phil. Quick
Number
tempo.
4.
Okay.
All right. So you're on the rankings committee, playoff committee. Let's say they both win out. James Madison or North Texas?
Kudos
Sunbelt
to
versus American.
Yeah, kudos to the Mean Green for even being ranked. That is
Yeah,
a
dude.
story in itself. That is historical.
It's a tough job. It's a tough job. It's a really tough job.
I've actually been to good old Denton, Texas to do a game. We interviewed Mean Joe Green, who is an alum. That's not what Mean Green is named after, by the way. That's a misnomer. People make that mistake all the time. I'm talking about broadcasters do. That's not, they didn't name it the Mean Green after Mean Joe Green, but it just so happens that Joe Green went there and is their most prominent alum. A very difficult job, but you've got a coach in Morris and you've got a quarterback, and was it Westermeyer? That are that's who I want to see, because I want to see that story continue and I want to watch them play ball. No knock on JMU, but who's got the better resume? Honest, JC, I don't know. I mean, like, where's the signature win for either team? JMU in the past has beaten some P4 teams, right? But
Yeah.
not this year.
You're kind of getting into like a Sunbelt versus American thing, in my opinion, when you do that. Now, South Florida has a big win over North Texas, and South Florida is actually the highest ranked of these teams, but they may not make their conference championship game. You know, James Madison this year, only loss was to Louisville. It was respectable, a couple of touchdowns, and they had them. You know, they beat. Other than that, it's just been Sunbelt teams, but they've run through the Sunbelt and beaten some really good teams, and they've been hot lately too. They've been 63-27 over Old Dominion, who's a good football team. They beat Texas State. They beat Marshall. They beat App State 58-10 this past weekend. So I don't know. I want to see North Texas because I want to see how their offense matches up against one of these power teams. Especially if it's one that's maybe a little slow of foot, you know. I'd like to see that. That's intriguing to me, much more intriguing than watching Boise State again. But yeah, that's an interesting debate to have right there.
I compare real quick North Texas to like an FAU when Lane Kiffin was there. To go back to old Lane, who we'll do a deep dive in on after a quick break in a sec. You round up the best of the leftover recruits in a talent-rich state, and in that league with that competition, if you got the better coaching staff and the better quarterback, you're going to win a lot of games, and that's what North Texas is doing. And when Lane was at FAU, that's what they were doing. Lane was clearly in a different weight class than the other coaches in that league at that time. So I'll go Mean Green. Yeah, I said it. No knock on JMU. They've had their time in the sun. I think Denton, Texas is a better story right now. Number 5, Phil.
Number 5.
All right. So who does LSU end up hiring?
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. You throw that at me with the clock ticking down.
I mean,
I don't think they get Lane. Sorry,
Yeah.
Bayou Bengal Nation. I don't know what the chat board. Well, what's the 24/7 version of LSU?
They're not really. I mean, Florida's the market that's really like, we love you, Lane. You know, I mean, this is their caged animal hire at Florida, right?
Oh, without question. But I'm not sure if it's not a
LSU
caged animal hire at LSU.
But LSU's been the bridesmaid on some of these searches like this too lately.
You're
If
right.
you think
Yeah.
about it, remember Tom Herman was going to go to
Oh,
LSU,
yeah.
and then Texas
Absolutely.
called. Remember Lincoln Riley was hot and heavy with LSU, and then
100%.
Southern Cal called.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on the Bayou, but yeah, I mean, I don't. That's a mystery to me. I think it's by far the best job open. I don't really care what the governor, even with the governor meddling, right?
Here's what I think is the safe pick for all these schools that might not get their guy. It's John Summerall. And I'm not saying John Summerall's I does John Summerall win the press conference? Probably not. Are people going to call him a home run hitter, a home run hire? Probably not. Is it big game hunting? No, but they've had enough of that. This just in. But John Summerall's a safe pick. He's the safe pick. I mean, unless you want to just throw a complete curveball here, that's the name I submit to you Tuesday morning, November the 18th.
Auburn people aren't going to be happy with that one.
Well, you're right. But
So
what
like I
job
said,
would you rather have? This is if LSU offers.
I think Auburn could, if they don't get, I think they could make a roundabout move on Eli Drinkwitz. Eli Drinkwitz coached there at Auburn and stuff. And I'm not saying he definitely wants to get out of Missouri, but there's certain things about Missouri that are different than some of the other SEC schools. And it's not, it's not the talent or winning or whatever. It's just a different football culture there. And so,
what do you call it? The Big Six in the SEC that have won all these.
Yeah, we're going to have a non-Big Six team in the championship game this year. The A&M, they're not part of the Big Six.
They're not part of the Big Six. Yeah, everybody is kind of in Aggie land. They have assumed they should be in the Big Six, now Big Seven if they can get there. But you're right.
They're kind of the new bloods. Yeah, the Aggies and Longhorns and Sooners are like former Big 12 powers or whatever. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, you're gonna have Ole Miss in the playoff and maybe Vanderbilt. So it should be interesting. But good JC5.
Great JC5. We will wrap things up with a little G5 John and a deep dive on the guy who's rumored to be on every plane in America, Lane Kiffin. It's JC and Morgan.
Morning, Carl. Usual?
Yeah.
Your oldest was in here the other day. Said the two of you took a trip down to my neck of the woods. How'd that go?
You might as well give me one of those Carolina cars while you're at it.
I knew I liked that one.
Yeah.
There you go, my friend.
Thanks.
Hey, Carl. Congratulations.
See you tomorrow, ready?
You bet.
Welcome to Palm Casual Patio Furniture. Because we are the factory, Palm Casual has the ability to offer the highest quality outdoor furniture paired with world-class service. Since 1979, our factory showrooms have done our best to make the buying process as easy as possible for our customers. Our understanding of the many factors that go into your decision has helped us create our 30-day trial period that increases the level of comfort our customers feel during the shopping experience. Visit us in Somerville, Mount Pleasant, Myrtle Beach, and Bluffton, and online at palmcasual.com for our products and out-of-state locations. Go Gamecocks!
Hey, folks, want to tell you about our friends at Titan Construction Group really quick. They're a mid-Atlantic-based general contractor, specializes in retail, restaurant, and office construction. TCG strives to separate itself from other general contractors by adding value every step of the process. From project budgeting to estimation, value engineering to construction, they focus on those relationships and not the transaction. Titan builds partnerships one project at a time. Among their clients are Starbucks, Crumble Cookie, Blake Pizza, Home Goods, 15 plus years experience, based in Midlothian, Virginia, and contracted in Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. So get on their website, TitanCGinc.com. That's TitanCGinc.com. Get in touch with Brad if you're in need of a general contractor that focuses on going above and beyond for their clients. That's Titan Construction Group, a proud sponsor of the JC and Morgan podcast.
We're passionate about making sure that the Nest and Wild mattress is the best it can be. Made well and made right. Right here in Tupelo, Mississippi. So how can we do all that? Work. Hard work. And that means something. The Nest and Wild mattress is a movement. It's a pride in where you come from and where you're going. So get comfortable, because this movement is just beginning.
This is JC Morgan on the Chief Sports Network.
College football forever.
All right, final segment here of JC and Morgan. Appreciate everybody tuning in live this Tuesday morning. And for those of you that catching it later on, it's still fresh. You just pop that thing in the microwave, 60 seconds, and it's going to be just as delicious as those old TV dinners that your mom used to make. Real quick, Group 5, John. Who fell out of his top 5? USF. They lost to Navy 41-38. Navy is just an amazing story. We probably don't talk about them enough. And the coaching job there and the job that Blake Horvath has done. They do throw the ball now at Navy. That's not just an option team anymore. And Memphis lost to East Carolina. So that's kind of shook things up. And you mentioned it. You and G5 John on the same wavelength. So number 5, San Diego State. Number 4, Navy. Number 3, Tulane. He has North Texas 2 and JMU 1. North Texas is at Rice. And James Madison, there's a random one. They take on Washington State. So there you go. Hawaii's at the Fighting Dan Mullins. That's his game of the week. His player of the week is Jacksonville State sophomore quarterback Caden Creel. Go Cox. And a shout out to Missouri State, has a 7-3 overall record and 5-1 in their first year in CUSA. I got to just throw this in there. Have you noticed the national media has completely slept on Colorado football all of a sudden? I mean, they could not talk about that enough when Deion beat a few middle-of-the-road teams, first out west and then in the Big 12, before getting smoked by the Mormons in the bowl game last year with the 2 best players in the league, if not 2 of the best players in the country. Deion's record now at Colorado is 16-19, 9-16 in conference play. They've won very few games of consequence. He has fired a boatload of assistants. He has blamed a lot of people for the demise of Colorado. He makes a lot of money, and they spend a ton of money in the portal. He'll tell you, I'm not going out and recruiting. That's somebody else's job. They're going to come to me. I'm the Louis Vuitton bag guy. They're going to come to me. And, of course, you had people in our profession saying he's revolutionizing coaching in college football. Nobody's talking about it anymore. I find that rather interesting that all of a sudden the coverage of Colorado and Deion Sanders has completely evaporated. Lane Kiffin, nothing has evaporated about him, and obviously his shine is bright. He's not your typical Nepo baby. He wasn't just given like a premier job right away. He did pay some dues. All right. Now, obviously, the Kiffin name didn't hurt, but he's 50 years old. Did you know he was a quarterback at Fresno State? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was in the, what was it, documentary or whatever he did.
Oh, you saw that? I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah. I finally watched it. It was a while. Like it came out and I didn't watch it, but then I did.
A lot of people were critical about the doc and that see, these docs now, it's like the Jerry Jones doc with the Cowboys. And I just watched an Eddie Murphy doc on Netflix on the plane. Eddie Murphy, if you're of a certain age, Eddie Murphy burst onto the scene like no other rocket I've ever seen. 3 of his first 4 movies were 48 hours, Trading Places, and, oh gosh, Not Coming to America. 48 Hours, Trading Places, and Beverly Hills Cop. They were all unbelievable successes. He saved Saturday Night Live. but the documentary is produced by him. And so it just glosses over a lot of stuff that shouldn't have been glossed over. But if you're going to do a doc, do it right. You can't just you can't just give them like the showing that yourself in a great light. Anyway, I didn't see the Lane doc, but he was a backup quarterback at Fresno State. I don't think he ever saw the field. Then he's an assistant at Fresno State for 2 years. Then he's a GA at Colorado State. Then he's a quality control coach with the Jaguars. Then he's a tight ends coach at Southern Cal, receivers coach at Southern Cal, offensive coordinator at Southern Cal before he lands the Raiders job. And boy, was that something, because a lot of great coaches interviewed for that job. Rick Neuheisel tells a great story about Al Davis doing the interviews for that job. But it lands on Lane, and then Al Davis says it was the biggest mistake he ever made, that Lane conned him, and blah, 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 blah. So Lane's stock starts dropping here. Then he takes the Tennessee job, talks a lot of smack. I mean, a lot of smack. They go 7-6. Not exactly lighting the world on fire. And then he leaves Knoxville, just leaves him in the middle of the night to go to Southern Cal. Goes to Southern Cal. He's there for 4 years. They fire him on the tarmac. At that point, Lane's stock is dirt. He is like, nobody wants him. Nick Saban says, you know what? I can fix it. He's like Spicoli in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. My dad's got a great set of tools, man. I can fix it. He takes him and says, be my offensive coordinator. Grow up a little bit. And he gets the job. And all of a sudden, Alabama transforms from the ground and pound, clock control, win games in the 20s to a wide open, throw it around, let Tua cook, let Jalen Hurts cook, and lighting up the scoreboard. And he does that for 3 years. And then guess what happens? Nick Saban, before the bowl game, says, no, dude, I don't need you. Because, again, Lane was acting a little silly. So then he has to do his penance at Florida Atlantic. Hoot, hoot, the Fighting Owls, the mean streets of Boca Raton, 2017 to 2019. Wins a lot of games, but it's FAU. Is his stock really high? Ole Miss says, yes, it is. And they make the hire in 2020. And like I said, 4 consecutive 10-win seasons. 4 at Ole Miss. Not the Big Six. Ole Miss. An incredible story. And now, of course, he is coveted by a whole lot of folks. And that is your deep dive. He is the boss right now, Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, it's great. His Ole Miss thing, like Hugh Freeze won a lot of games at Ole Miss during his time there. But inevitably, he did have the bad year at the end, the 5-7. Even Lane Kiffin, going back to FAU, his second year, went 5-7 at FAU. The consistency, though, he's coached with. I mean, the worst year they had was 2022, and they just didn't finish well. They were 8-1, finished 8-5. But 11-2, 10-3, and now 10-1 with a playoff, culminating in a playoff berth in 6 years. A lot of people, when Hugh Freeze left, and then they went with Matt Luke for a short time, that they didn't think Ole Miss was going to win again, even with Kiffin out there. And from the start, that pandemic year was not easy to take over. He won 5 conference games. So this guy has a 31-17 SEC record in 6 years. And
insane.
And hey, look, sometimes coaches are like players. It takes them a little while to hit their stride, and then they do. Nobody ever wants to talk about Michigan State and Nick Saban, man. He was a 500 ball coach until this last year there when he went 9-2.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I'll correct something I said. It's 4 10-win seasons. They're not consecutive. In 2022, he went 8-5. So 10 wins in 21, 11 wins in 23, 10 wins in 24. He's sitting on a 10-1 record. He did leave FAU. He passed up a second Boca Raton Bowl for the Ole Miss job. So we have precedent. But a college football playoff is a little bit more prestigious than a Boca Bowl. I would say that. Our thanks for everybody on chat row as well. Sorry we didn't get to a bunch of you. We always love the good mornings. You folks are great. Frederick, Doc, Graybeard, great name. Travis, appreciate the kind words on that, Travis. Thank you so much for that. DC, Harrison, always bringing some heat and some analysis. Jay Frew. Yeah, and where's my man that always has the fiver dimer? Okay,
Oh, he's
Sam the
in there.
man,
Sam.
Sam Murphy. With the holidays right around the corner, here's a holiday-themed fiver dimer: planes, trains, and automobiles, and the aforementioned Eddie Murphy hit. He says they are both Ben Franklin, Sam. Cannot watch either one of those movies enough. JC, agree or disagree?
Agreed.
All right, there we have it. I can't think of a better note to go out on. We'll be back next Tuesday. If you don't already have this downloaded on the Chief app, if you don't have it bookmarked on YouTube, if you don't have it bookmarked on Spotify, anything else they need to know, we got the website. We got everything firing on all cylinders, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's rocking and rolling.
Rocking and rolling. And we will rock and roll again with you next week. For JC, for Mad Dog, Mike saying so long. Thanks for tuning in, JC and Morgan.